Mr. Haris, one of the things we were talking about earlier was the demand for India to ratify the International Convention for Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances. How would this ratification change anything in Kashmir, and what would be the purpose of this ratification that the Kashmiri people are pushing towards?
Basically, as Naeem said before this, most of the armed forces work in complete impunity. They are immune to persecution and all. So the human rights activists and the call from the public has been that if there is any ratification in laws regarding enforced disappearances, torture, and many other such actions that cause severe damage to the public and public property would bring at least some sense of relief in terms of at least the forces could be made accountable. Yeah. There is a huge trust deficit on the judicial and the law enforcement agencies in the valley.
And Mr. Haris, what is the Indian authorities, what is the Indian government doing to rectify that trust deficit? Is there anything being done?
I mean, other than political posturing, to be honest, there is a very stiff resistance both from the armed forces and from the center to bring any actual change on the ground. So far, we have seen that whenever there is a talk of reining in forces or ratifying laws, or at least make sure that the impunity that is given to the armed forces is not there. You see, the army general or somebody from the security forces giving out statement, calling out such political parties, that this won't be possible, that their mere existence in the valley would become jeopardized. So other than political posturing, I don't think much the armed forces can actually work in such a place where the whole population is resentful to your very own existence at that place.
And you mentioned the population is resentful. And I want to ask here, what has the Indian state done systematically to prove that the Kashmiri people are not their own, but in fact are the other one they can conduct systematic violence upon?
See, what you often hear the policymakers or the government, both in Delhi and in the Srinagar, keep saying that Kashmir is an integral part. So at least on the optical level and at the political posturing is that we are the same people. We are not something different. Unlike in case of Israel-Palestine, where they are quite distinct, in stating that we are not one, but we're two different people. So in that sense, it's an inclusive, inclusive politics, but a very forceful inclusion. So on that level, there may not be a systematic, process to exclude people, but the system is developed in such a way that you become marginalized in whether job creation or seeking legal refuge if you have been anything is wronged against you, if you have been wronged. So that sort of discrimination exists, but it's not an open one, or it's not like you're not called out for being Kashmiri. But within the valley, the perception among the people is that the identity is definitely under threat. It's under threat as well, because as you know, the Modi government has thrived on identity politics, has risen on religious, on divisive religious politics.
And Haris, I wonder, with the elections being held on April 11th, what is the atmosphere like? What are the sentiments of the Kashmiri people? Is the fear being heightened?
Basically, there are no assembly elections going to be held in the valley. The election commission announced that because of the prevailing security situation, the assembly elections would be delayed. But as the parliamentary elections, which happen across the country, would be done in 5 phases. Usually what we have seen in the previous parliamentary elections as well, that the turnout is usually very low, because parliamentary elections, as in any other country, are happen on national for national politics, and people here don't relate as much as they would probably for a state election.
But what about the
They
fact
would.
that what's going to be happening within India for political gains might impact Kashmiris living in India and also in Indian occupied Kashmir?
Frankly, the belief is there that it doesn't really matter who is going to come into the power in Delhi, because Delhi, irrespective of who comes to power, whether it's BJP or whether it's Congress, the policy remains the same. It's muscular and it's militaristic in its approach. So it really doesn't matter which government is going to come into power, because the successive governments we have seen right since 47 until recent times, the policy